G'day, welcome to Mark and Sam After Work. Today I want to do a little product update or a couple of new components that we're bringing to the store. Both, as per usual, problems that I'm working with, trying to find the best way of dealing with things and designed a product out of that, and we'll put them on the store so you can get them if you would like them. First off, and most obviously, we've got 3 new muzzle brakes here. Now these are muzzle brakes of our design, of the big flat square muzzle brake, designed a little differently for a specific reason. One is, you'll notice, even though they are big and broad, this is a 4-port or a 5-port or a 6-port. So these are for your larger calibers, your big Magnums and up is what these are for, or the Magnum for the 4-port and then your big Magnums up with the 5 and the 6-port. Could run this sort of thing up to your 416 in the Barrett, that sort of stuff, in the 6-port, and in even the 50 BMG, depending on how much you want in the way of recoil retardation. But listen, that's not the special feature we're looking at here. Special features that I've designed into this. One, they're not as wide as some of my big brakes because I've actually narrowed the ports down a little bit by having this tapered section you can see on the front of it. So it's a design I've started to go in different fashions with some of the tapered muzzle brakes and things like that. It's working quite well, gives good braking, but keeps that dust off the ground in the design of that. Works nice, very low in the way of percussion on your face and that sort of stuff, or none, and works really nicely. They're also with a big flange on here, so you can go to your full bull barrel, your full 1¼ inch barrel, or your 31.6 mil, 31.7 mil sort of size we've got in here. But you'll notice they are just machined steel is what you're looking at. We normally Cerakote them, they normally have a thread in them, and we size them according to the caliber. None of this is going to happen with these. I'm putting these on the store in this form here. Now it's for a specific reason. And that specific reason is, once we get into the larger barrels and the larger rifles, custom rifles, there is hundreds of different threads. And we started chasing down the road of doing some threads, and then to do that and make it cost effective, we have to do a fair few of them up. And it gets really complicated. We end up with all sorts of random sizes and threads for all the random ones of people order things. And that doesn't work cost effectively for me. We end up charging more than we want to for a custom muzzle brake, but spending a lot more than we need to, and end up with strange stuff on the shelf, which I use in some places. But like I said, it's a little complicated. So I'm going down a different approach. This brake has been designed where you can see the small hole in there. You could machine down as, that's a 16 mil hole, 5/8 by 24. It's a little bit, you can't get that smaller thread in it. It's made for larger than that, and you should be using a larger thread than that for a Magnum caliber. But up from there, you can machine it out to whatever. The largest thread I run is a 28mm thread, so that's like an 1.8" thread. But you can really thread it to whatever size you want. You can also make sure it's perfectly timed to the barrel that you've got, or machining the barrel as well and going to whatever size you want. The bore, this one here is just down in 7 mil. You could take that out to whatever size you want as well. So really the best way to drill out a muzzle brake is centered perfectly to the bore. So this gives you the option to do the whole lot. It is also just raw 4140 steel. So this is stuff that you can Cerakote to match your barrel. You could polish it up and leave it in this stainless steel color. It isn't stainless steel, although there is a bit of moly in this, or a little bit of corrosion resistance in the 4140. Really, it is just mild steel in the way it's going to behave. It's a few grades up from mild steel, harder than that. But if you kept it oiled and that sort of stuff, you could look after it like that as well. For guys who want to do that, you could. We Cerakote them. I'm not Cerakoting specifically because these are going to get mounted up in a 4-jaw chuck, clamped down, and then you're likely to damage. You're going to machine bits and pieces, so you're likely to damage your Cerakote, so do it afterwards. And they are cheaper because of that. They're not Cerakoted, they're just clean. That's the 4-port. Same size bore we're starting in the 5-port. It has a larger, we're really coming out to where you're only going to be running the larger calibers, and further out a little bit more distance, but that is what we've done there in both the 5 and the 6-port. So just an opposite, I should say, they are tapered like you can see, but they are dead center, square there and square there. So they'll clamp up into a 4-jaw chuck, and they can be sized whatever, including taking down the flange down to suit your barrel. That's going to be something that could be done on a lathe as well. This whole process could be set up to perfectly suit the front of your rifle, in whatever situation that is. 4, 5 and 6 port. So we'll see how that goes. There's going to be more cost for you with your gunsmith to go through and thread the inside of them, but you get to go, basically they will fit any thread that you want. Like I said, got to be above the 5/8 by 24, but any of the Magnum threads that you want, these are going to be able to fit them. They're going to work properly with that sort of stuff. We still have our little ones, the 3-port and the 4-port in the thin and the other options and different threads we've got down there. We still have those, but for those big custom builds, this is an option. This is a way that I'm looking at going forward. We'll see what the marketplace thinks, but I'll set up one shortly on one of the bigger ones that we do shortly and thread it all up to suit, go through that process. But listen, that's a way I've got of going to all those custom threads for people that are asking that. These ones here, they're now on the store, so if you want them, roughly 2 weeks for most parts around the world where they'll travel around. And like I said, a little bit cheaper because you're going to end up spending some more money at your end. But listen, it's a thought that I've got. See how it goes. In the way of how they shoot, I haven't shot any one of these. I've shot the same format, the same port design, that sort of stuff, and really nice. They work really well. They work like my other brakes in the same sort of design. So yeah, really happy with them. But anyway, that's on the store. The other thing I've got on the store, about to put on the store I should say, are these fellas here. What are they? Well, they're actually bipod feet. What you'll see us commonly use on our bipod system, and this is the component A with some large bipod legs on it, which are the long legs of the, I think, BT47, so the long leg bipod. Put those legs onto our system, and this is what you see running in our rifles generally. You see I've got these legs on the end here of what we've done, so we've got the same thing going on. But what I used to have, and what I'm actually designing, the problem that I'm fixing here, is I found when I went to, even with the long legs, they were a little bit shorter than I wanted for some of the ELR stuff. I wanted a little bit more length. So what I did years ago was made up some little extension feet, and most of the time you see me shooting have these little extension feet. Only for the ELR stuff, so probably not what most people need, but what I needed was some legs for the ELR stuff. So this little extension piece, which I still put the rubber piece on the bottom, it's basically a bit that goes in the middle of a normal Atlas leg. Bit painful to do and build, and what we had to do to build them, but listen, that's what we did. Now the thing I found with shooting in the heavier stuff with more recoil and trying to make that action smoother is I found as much as these real rubber feet are awesome things for, they grip, they bog into our bag quite nicely, into the dirt quite nicely, but they actually have a bit of spring to them. They actually are a little squishy, and when you're looking at everything, there's a lot of force going on. There's a little sort of wriggle, and you can see these feet moving in the dirt. Not because the dirt was moving, but because actually the rubber was moving. So I've built some stuff. There is the Atlas spikes that you get, the spiked feet. I built some other little shoe feet and things that do the job and fix it, but I still have this extension thing. So these are designed to fix both bits of that equation. These replace the feet. These mount a little bit differently, but to start off with, they give me that same extension. They're solid feet. They're set up with a little rock. I put a little dimple on the bottom of them, so that's really over a fair way with how they're set up, but that was still going to dig into the bag with any sort of dirt, not made for concrete or for shooting on a hard mat, that sort of stuff. These are made to go into the ground and then remove that little bit of spring that the rubber had there, just to try and keep that action even nicer when you've got something pretty big and heavy hitting on the top, sitting on the top of it. I said they mount a little bit different. They're sort of very similar, but I wanted to clamp that up because there's a little extension. I wanted to make that clamp even stronger. What I've done, instead of the little ball detent that they have to go on the bottom of the Atlas leg, is I've just made a full thread. So you actually use an Allen key in the other hole to screw it out and lock them in. So these screw up, and then you lock them up, and they're actually done up. So they become more of a rigid mount like that. It means that In this bipod, there's no flexibility. They don't move at all. They're bolted on there. The only drawback that'll cause for if people don't have, there's some bipods legs that don't have, these ones here have 4 holes. Some of the early ones had only 1 hole, only the hole you want to go in there. In those you would have to run a drill through there. You're not going to damage it all, but run a drill through the other side so you have access to do it the way I've done it with these. And listen, like I said, for most people, it's not something they want. But if you see the same thing, and I suppose more than anything, when you notice in upcoming videos that I have these different looking legs on the bottom of them, that's what it's all about. Yes, we can do them. We had to do up a few of them to be able to get a reasonable cost to get them built to start off with. They're hard black anodized aluminium, all done, and we're about to test them, see how they go. You might find a permutation to the design down the track, but at this stage, that's what we're going to use in this season. That's what they are, and that's why I did it that way. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you. Both a couple of, like I said, trying to design my way around little quirks. This one here with the muzzle brakes, the being able to provide something at a cheaper cost that then you can go and get machined to suit exactly what you want, whatever your thread is, doesn't matter anymore. That's in your neck of the woods. You'll need to speak to your gunsmith or your machinist, whatever you're using on that side of things, to make sure they're good with cutting that internal thread. But once you're at that place, like I said, then the sky's the limit. You can have whatever thread you want, set them up exactly, dial them in exactly, make sure it's dead centered to the bore. All those bits and pieces happen out of screwing this on and then finishing the ports as you go through, or finishing the holes lined up exactly to your barrel. But like I said, just an option. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, guys, thanks for checking in on us, and we'll catch you next time.